Hey buddies, welcome to AmassGames. My name is Simon. Today I'm showing you how to set up, play and review the game Verrater. This is from 1998. It's a board game in a playing card box. That's kind of how it's known as. It won a Fair Play Award in 1999 for the best card game. It's got various things going on here. Low on luck, medium on bluff, high complexity and high on kind of like challenge. Okay, so this game comes in German, but there are some English rules you can print off, etc. And hopefully this will also help too. I have seen a video, but it wasn't very helpful for me in really getting a grip of this. And hopefully this will help you in your discovery on whether or not you want to play this game Verrater. So like I said, German rules going back in the box, and they're also going to chuck in a tiny amount of German cards in the game as well. But the reason I bought this game is because I knew it was highly language independent. So somebody is going to be the start spieler. They're going to be that starts player. So we'll have that person down here. It's a 3 to 4 player game, and I'm setting it up as if it is a full complement of 4 players. It's how I most frequently play it. So that person is always going to be part of the Eagle faction, and they're going to take, well, let's say they're brown. They're taking these 3 cards and put them next to them for the time being. They're also going to take some cards representing some might, 3, 4, and 5. They're called supply cards. You then got the rose player over here. You've got their cards as well. And let me give a bit of a theme going on here. So ultimately 2 warring factions are at war. There are various clans. We have these Eagle clan and we have the allegiances for the Rose clan. You're going to have the person over here is going to have the strategy card and the conflict card. I'll explain that in a bit. They're also going to, of course, take their supply cards as well. You're going to have obviously this next person, Orange, who obviously is going to be Eagle again, so you alternate. They're going to take their supply cards. Then finally we have the green player. And they're going to take their supply cards too. And then you have the various different abilities. There are 6. I'm going to be shuffling these up in a moment, and I'll be going through these roles in due course. You're then going to start laying out certain cards. Now, there are various different things here. You're going to have the Stadt, the Dorf, I think it's Wieder, the Fluss, the Wald, and the Unis. So various things ultimately is to mean the city, the town, the wilderness, the river, the countryside, various things like that, the stones and meadows and things like that. Same thing, obviously, all for eagles and all for roses. The final cards are the draw deck for that supply deck, which I'll come back onto. So let me move it off to one side. You can take all these cards, do not flip and orientate them. So as you can see, what I'm doing here is you're ensuring that you always have exactly equal amounts of rose cards and cards relating to the eagle. That's because there's always going to be, at the start of the game, 2 rivers, but one's going to be for the rose, one is going to be for the eagle. And then what you're going to do is lay these out in a circle, starting in a bit in the center. So you're going to make a circle going on here, and let me sort out the rest in a moment. It doesn't matter if any of them are next to each other, as you'll see in a moment. So as you can see, we do need to widen it. You might get it more of an oval shape potentially. That doesn't matter. So let's just bring this out a bit more. And whilst I'm doing this, please hit the like button, please share, please comment, and check out the description where you can help support the channel via Patreon and also help support the channel via following on Instagram. Aside from that, please ensure that you do share and subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the notification bell for new videos, and you'll find this how to set up, play and review video in the playlist. So there's various other playlists you can check out, including other things such as, how to set up, play and review. There's co-op games, card games, all kinds of things. So that's all set up. And now what we're doing is starting that start player. We're going to start thinking about what we want to be doing. So there are various phases to the game. You might have seen a bit of white paper off to the side. There's a nice little player aid I recommend printing off. You're choosing the conflict area. So what you're doing here is you're taking these cards and you are going to start shuffling these up. And then you are going to place one face down, and the first player is going to look at these cards and pick which character they wish to be. So you'd be the strategist. If it's a circle, it's going to give you points at the end of the game. The person with the most points, the game wins. You could be the diplomat. You're adding a bit of power, a bit of strength. Anything in a square represents some strength. That's helping you win a fight. You've then also got the Baumeister. They're handies. They can flip over maybe a certain building. So they're a builder, and what they can do is allow you to maybe say, well, actually, I want to change one of, say, my estates to a trading post. Don't worry, I'll explain that in a moment. Verrater, hence the name of the game, you can switch allegiance. You are currently, say, the Eagles, maybe you want to be the Roses. And you have the Bauer, that lets you draw 3 more supply cards. Their fighting will help you win fights and help you get points. So they've all been in here. We've got an extra card in here we can't see currently, just to let you know what that card is, it's another diplomat and it's worth 5 might. Okay, so starting the first player, you're picking a card. For now, let's pick Verrater. So that's going to go face down. Someone else is going to pick something else. They're going to see these cards and they go, oh, okay, well, I don't know. Are they the Verrater or is the Verrater in the center? So they're going to pick a card. Goes all the way around to the final person. So going to see 2 cards. Everyone else will know potentially they could be one of a number of cards. That final card is put in the center and put off to one side. So that's going to go round. For now, we're just going to leave those here. So just assume that everyone has taken a card and that final card, along with one in the center, is back in the center. Then also what you're going to be doing prior to that, just to set up the game, is going with starting player order. You're taking one of your Gusthoffs, one of your states, or you could make it as a contour and place it under one of your things. So right now I might choose to place it under an eagle. I'll explain why in a minute. I'll place it under here and everyone goes around and that's going to complete and we do everything. Now I'll show you an example because they're different, and so now I'll do this way up just to show you why. They're going to go round, so each of these things are going to have something on it. It doesn't have to be next to where you are, I'm just happening to be doing that. So that's going to go round, round, around until we're all going to have something under it. And the reason for doing so is you'll get a bonus if you happen to have it under one of these countryside locations which matches your actual allegiance. So the current allegiance, of course, is dependent on whatever you are. So we're placing them under here. We're placing, sorry, I placed the wrong card out there. So this Vald, he's got a Gusthoff and a Gusthoff and another Gusthoff. And then over here we've got green. So we've got, they're going for Gusthoff, Gusthoff again, Gusthoff. Okay, so now we're going to start the round. So what's going to happen is we're going to choose some action cards. What these represent are, of course, these cards here. These are action cards. I've even got it written on the side of them here. And then what you're going to be doing is you're going to start taking your supply cards. So starting the first player, you are going to have your cards. Here they are. Here are the first player's markers. And based on who you are, so again, I'm the traitor. I'm trying to help the eagles out, but I am going to be switching to roses. We're going to have this, well, before we finish prep up the game, we have the person to the right of that starting player, sorry, to the left over here. They're going to be changing out and chucking out a conflict. So what they're going to do is go anything that's neighbouring. So let's just go here as an example. There are 2 rival areas because, as you can see, we have eagles here and we have the roses here. If it happened to be like this, then you can flip it over like that. So it's quite nice how that works. And in this instance, we're now looking to see, well, what would win. So if you happen to be the eagles and they happen to beat the roses, then the amount of players, if it's one person who's the eagles who wins the fight, they'll get 10 victory points. That's 10, 6, 3, and 1. You might get 6 victory points if there's 2 of you. There's 3 of you, you're going to get 3 victory points. All 4 of you, you're going to get a single victory point. That's how that works. Okay, and this is strength. So these guys are stronger. So you're more likely to win it, but if you do beat them, then of course you're getting yourself more victory points. So right now I'm thinking what I want to commit. So I might not choose to pick anything, but just an example, I openly play a 3. Let's say they play, let's say they play a 3. Let's move it up a bit. Let's change, they have a 5. This person plays a 4. So that's what they play. And now we move on to the revealing phase. So starting off with who's the traitor, they reveal the traitor. Everyone else reveals whoever they are. So they happen to reveal that Bauer, which I'll come on to. They happen to reveal the Baumeister. And this person happened to have revealed that they're the diplomat. So now, because I'm the traitor, I flip allegiance. So I was an eagle, now I am a rose. So now we're going to compare. So over here, we have got, who do we have over here? I did it again. So we have a rose over here, so rose and rose are going to work together. So we have a total value of a 3, total value here of 3, so 6, of course, for the roses. So 6 going on here. Over here, we've got eagle, they're chucking in a 5, so it's 6 to 5. And over here we have a 4. So we've now got a total of 10 against 5. So we add also on the battle. So we are playing as the roses. So we have got 10 plus 10 is 20 against them, which is 7 plus the 5, because they're the eagles. So 12 against 20, we win the fight. So this person has lost. So the roses have won. So we get victory points. So there's 3 of us. We'll get 2 victory points each. We've now defected or made them defect. So now they're part of our allegiance. So now they are going to be with us. There's more roses in play now. So suddenly being roses is quite lucrative. So those points are going to be divvied up equally. Remember those victory points. As a Verrater, you get an extra victory point as well, that circle there. Over here we have a Bauer, I'll come back onto them. Baumeister's not doesn't different either. And then the Diplomat, they would have added 2 to the fight, but it wouldn't have made any difference as we saw. So they were still too far behind. Right, so that ultimately ends that resolving of the conflict. We've given out the victory points. If anybody happens to have been the strategist, you've got 2 extra victory points. As we can see, the strategist is here, hence it's encircled for 2. And then we're moving on to the building ability. So now what you can do is if you're the Baumeister, you can say, well, actually, I might want to swap one of my buildings. Because currently, where they are, the Baumeister is an eagle. And at the minute, that doesn't really help them because these buildings aren't very useful for them. So they can actually flip one of these buildings over so that they're going to start benefiting from this, which you'll see in a moment. So right now, they do flip it back. Let's just flip a different one for sake of argument. Okay, so now that helps them because it's matching their allegiance, which I'll get on to in a second. So everybody else then does the next phase. The next phase is phase 8, is the strategist. So do we have any strategists in play? We have the Bauer, the Verrater. No, we don't. So otherwise it doesn't change. The strategist stays where they were. Otherwise, what they're going to do is they're going to now pick where the next conflict is going to be. This person's like, well, I quite like that because I got some victory points. The fact that the Baumeister has switched it, I'll stick it there, but let's change it up. We'll go over here. So now you're not adding anything, but you will get some victory points going on here. So they happen to pick that. Remember, it'll be that way around because it's Rose against Eagle. And then you are then discarding any cards that you put into battle. So the 3, the 5, and the 4, they go out the game. You might have seen at the beginning, I did have some other cards. So those are other cards. So just going to shuffle those up initially. They actually have some high values. We've got a 4, 2, we've got an 8, a 6, and another 6. So a different kind of stuff going on here. Of course, you will shuffle in the rest later on as well when you run out. So here's the supply cards. You're then going to divvy them out. Now, the Bauer is in play, the farmer. They get 3 supply cards. So they always get 3, so that's quite handy to have. They've drawn 3. You can have a maximum of 5 cards. This person, they won the fight. So the roses won. So over here we can have a look. And let's have a look where the roses are. So they happen to be brown. So over here they're brown. They have 2 estates, 2 Gusthofs, but only one matches their colour, which is the rose. So in this instance, they get 1 card. If they happen to have had 2 Gusthofs that match their allegiance, they'll draw 2. If they had 3, they'll draw 3. So that's where you want to be careful. You want to make sure that your allegiance matches the colour of where you are, whether you're on a Gusthof or a contour. The reason I'm on Gusthof is it's a game which lasts 9 rounds as a 3-player, or as a 4, it's 2 rounds each as the starting player. So it's total 8 rounds. This starting player, then that one, that one, that one, again, and then you look at the final scores. So right now they're drawing 1 card. If they're 3 Gusthofs and you all happen to be the same allegiance, you'll draw 3 cards. That's the most you can get. However, if you want to have a contour, then at the end of the game, that's handy because you're getting a victory point, hence the 1 circle, times by the amount of supply cards you have up to a maximum of 3 supply cards. So 3 times 2, maximum score you can get is 6 victory points, okay? So you want to try and get 2 to 3 contours and then 2 to 3 of the inverse supply cards, okay? It's maximum 6 victory points. You can definitely swing a game, so be aware of that. But early doors, you definitely want Gusthofs. You just want to make sure you don't wait too late to get that Baumeister. You can only swap yourself once. So as a Baumeister, you can either swap the allegiance of one of these cards, one of the countryside locations, or one of your buildings. So you can change your allegiance from, obviously, a Gusthof to a contour or vice versa. You can change, obviously, what that building is. Because it's a builder, it's now swapping what it is. So those swap these cards, and this, what the Verrater does, it swaps your allegiance. So there's 2 ways of flipping that around. The other cards have other effects, which typically involve strength, as you've seen. And then we've talked about the Bauer, who can actually add supply cards. They're the main things in the cards, and the strategist can choose where we have the conflict. So that should all make sense. Then what we're doing is drawing up those supply cards. Of course, we discarded the rest. We're then going to move the starting player on again. So that is 1 round. So remember, just to remind everybody, of course, you're going to keep an eye on where the conflict is going to be. You're going to think how much you want to commit to the starting player. You might not want to give much. If you chuck in tons, they might think, are they then going to take the Verrater? If they take the Verrater, you've got to really watch out for what's actually going on. Hopefully that gives you a good rundown on what you're playing. Of course, you always pass the player card to your left at the end of that round, and that pretty much sums up the game. So my review on this, well, it's a very kind of dicey game in the sense that you've got to really watch out for what you have and how you're comparing against what you have to what everyone else has. Those scores do start to diverge a bit. It happened to be that the person who was in the lead did stay in the lead, but there might have been other factors behind it. It's really down to everybody else to see, well, that person's in the lead, I've got to swap allegiances to try and make sure they don't win, because if they win, then there's usually going to be at least one person, more likely 2 to 3, who's going to share that victory. What you want to be aware of as well is, of course, if somebody's going to win, make sure that you can try and use up their supply cards, because if you're using up their supply cards, it means that they're going to struggle to actually play out and to be able to play something in a different round. So keep an eye on having supply cards is very important. As everybody has different roles, that has another factor on obviously how people play. I'll talk about duration. It doesn't feel too long. I think 45 to 60 minutes feels about right. You can definitely play, I think, 3/4 of, basically 3 hands in, I would say, even as little as 15 minutes. It can go quickly like that. It's just the initial setup and the initial explanation. As you can see, it's got a lot going on for it. The cards they're not too thin actually. They work quite well considering how they all fit back in this tiny box as well. Aside from that, rating, I would give this game a 7 out of 10. I think there's a lot going on for it. I like the way how you switch and slide. You have to be very careful about that strategist as well. Lots of victory points can be picked up that way. That was my way of mainly going for it. Aside from that, of course, everyone does have the same starting cards, so knowing that you potentially could card count, not that I have anticipated doing that. I like the idea. I think the theme makes sense as well. I like the idea of the different kind of cards and how it works. There's a game that has sort of superseded it, which I haven't played, called Verrater, which came out a year later, which is a similar kind of premise, and it's a tiny game by, who's it going again? I think it's Untitled Chapter, I think it's pronounced. So very interesting, great idea. You can see other videos on the channel as well, which are very similar, such as Drakenai and Schwert, and I've also got that expansion which you can check out, so I recommend that. I like the idea. I think it's a good premise. Of course, it predated, and I think it even lends a lot to Citadels. People have said it's basically led to Citadels. It's the biggest influence of Citadels, which came out a couple of years later. So if you're keen to know and were interested in the game Citadels, this is the kind of game that you want to see how it works. And hopefully that kind of explanation today has hoped to obviously pique your interest about this particular game, which could well have gone under the radar for many, especially this day and age where over sort of 5,000 games are made every year, and that's just in the States. So really keep an eye out on everything else that's coming along. Aside from that, there are lots of options. People might find, could it be sped up based on the fact that you can have an idea on what you want to do. Like I said, each of those phases do go very quickly. That seems to be a downside. Being the Verrater isn't necessarily bad. I think it makes a lot of sense that you're trying to switch allegiance. I think that's the best click part of the game that really works for me. And I think, yeah, of course, it does take up a bit of table space. Not a lot, but you have to be aware of that if you're looking to get into playing this game. As you can see, I'm packing away specifically. So what I'm choosing to do is put the starter player together, then putting together the various factions and go through that. The Gustafs, I like the idea that you do want to get out cards. Those are your resources, and you need to be, when do you want to ultimately push your luck on switching over to going for certain cards? When do you want to consider switching between cards that give you supply, which help you win a battle? And of course, it's definitely a collective argument. You're willing to work together to try and get those points. You need to make sure you are getting across the line, and as the first player, you can lowball it and hope everyone else does pile in. And until that Verrater then reveals themselves, you've got to be conscious of that and think about what else you can do, especially if you pass that Verrater card around. So that has been Verrater from Marcel, Andrea, Cancelola, Merkel, Verrater, and hopefully I found that video of interest. Thanks very much for watching.